Conversations have been had on protecting our forest reserves, and I'm sure that recently you've heard that intensified call by stakeholders for the government to revoke that LI that permits mining in forest reserves. The other thing that also comes up on as regards this issue regarding mining in the country has also been the need for us to protect the generality of our environment and water bodies. But perhaps one thing that a lot of people are not paying attention to is the food we eat and how much of metals used by these miners perhaps have seeped into the food items that we get on the market and finally end up on our dining table. Well, that's what we want to talk about today, because I took a trip to the eastern region with some samples, cassava, plantain, your usual contomere for your fufu or ampesi, to find out whether these metals indeed are found in our food items. And we'll be bringing you the content of that very shortly. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Adu, and tonight we'll be delving into the statistics and what they are saying about how much metals are in the food items that we buy from the market and we end up cooking and ingesting daily. I do have on the panel with me Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisu-Kote. She's the Administrator, Minerals Development Fund, MDF. Good evening to you, ma'am. It's great to have you in studio.
Great to be here.
I also do have on my left side, my extreme left actually, Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah. She's Acting Director, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
My immediate left, I do have with me Dr. Dennis Bote. He's a private medical practitioner. Good evening as well, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Of course, we do have our video call with us, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. He is a military doctor. He's also founding member of the opposition MPP, as well as former ambassador to Serbia and Montenegro. He joins us via video call. Doc, it's great to have you as well. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
And I was just telling you that indeed I took a trip to the eastern region, to be specific, at Tiwa West, to some communities to pick some food samples for a test. And we do have Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah with us. She led that research and we'll be going into the details. But first, watch this.
For decades, Ghana has unsuccessfully fought the menace of illegal mining, and the devastating effects have been obvious for all to see. Polluted water bodies, more than half of Ghana's rivers filled with harmful metals, and many women experiencing defects on their babies. But to what extent have these heavy metals seeped into food items on the market? I took a trip to some communities infested with galamsey in the eastern part of the country to find out.
Over 280 forest reserves that Ghana has. About 43 of them have already been touched by the activities of illegal mining. It all starts from here on this farm. Don't be deceived by the lush greenery you see right here, because just some few meters away, you've got holes that have been dug here and illegal mining activities are going on. We want to take some food items to examine them to see or confirm whether or not the proximity of these farms to these galamsey activities cause the chemicals to seep into the raw food items. So let's go. This should be about from here to where the illegal mining activities are. It should be about between 300 and 400 meters.
From there, we move to other farms to pick the same samples of cassava, plantain, and even vegetables.
I'm plucking some garden eggs and pepper from the plant that are just a few meters away from the illegal mining I've been talking to you about.
We took these items to the ecological laboratory at the University of Ghana for examination and results.
I have with me right now Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah. She's the Acting Director for the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, and this eco department is under her office, and of course she has a research assistant with her, Amwako Ofori, and so she will start really giving us the results, and then Amwako will conclude with that. Ma'am, please tell us what you found from the samples.
The sampling is not a holistic sampling, that is not the entire eastern region, but they were just random sampling of some food stuff.
Okay, so I can see on your laptop that you have plantain like we brought, cassava, contomere, garden eggs, pepper. Just tell us what you have. I've seen some numbers here.
Okay, all right. So 5 heavy metals were analyzed in the laboratory, and then the food crops that were brought to the laboratory were plantain, cassava, contomere, garden eggs, pepper. So after our analysis and we found the various concentration, we also subjected it to permissible limits or guideline values. And so we chose WHO/FAO, which is the World Health Organization Food and Agriculture Organization limits, as well as EU limits.
The results are shocking. Food items have heavy metals far elevated above what is permitted, causing serious health implications, including brain damage and other related neuro diseases, nervous breakdown, among others, especially in children.
Manganese recorded higher values, and these values were in contomere, they were above 1, and their units for adults were 1.14 and 2.01 respectively. However, for children, it was higher in contomere and garden eggs, and their values are 1.23 and 1.03 respectively. Then also we calculated for mercury, which is the target hazard quotient, and that one was also higher in cassava for both adults and a child, and they were 1.77 and 1.90 respectively. The next calculation or model we subjected it to is called health index, and then the health index is supposed to be the adding all multiple elements that you have analyzed together, and when you also sum them up, it shouldn't be above 1. But when we did a summation of copper, lead, zinc, manganese, and mercury, all of them were higher than 1. They were in the range of 2 to 4, which means they were higher than 1, which caused some concern. So in summary, manganese and mercury had the highest concentration in all the food substances. So some of the symptoms of taking too much lead in your food sample, it could be exposure to even low levels of lead can cause damage over time, especially in children. The greatest risk is to brain development, where irreversible damage can occur. Higher levels can damage the kidney and nervous systems in both children and adults. Okay, so high levels of mercury exposure can lead to severe neurological damage, developmental problems in children, and even cause death in both children and adults.
All right, so you just got a bit of the details there from that research and the health implications of consuming these food items that are polluted with these metals. Of course, we're going to be having a conversation about this in studio and get a bit deeper into this very data that we've just received.
Every morning, I wake up to this miracle sleeping soundly, but mornings weren't always this peaceful. I remember the sleepless nights, leaks that woke us both up, damp clothes and tears, and all I wanted was for my baby to be dry and comfortable. Then I discovered Flora Kids baby diaper. Its maximum absorption keeps my little one dry all night, giving us peaceful, restful sleep. And the stretchy side tapes, they make sure it's comfy even when she's on the move. Thanks to Flora Kids baby diaper, Our nights are calm and our mornings are full of giggles. For bulk purchases, call Delta Paper Mill on 0243 033 033.
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. If you are just joining us, we're telling you the story about how metals used in mining, particularly illegal mining, perhaps are seeping into the very food you find on your dining table. And we just showed you that that feature, as it were, of what information was gathered and the results that we got. We're going to be delving into the content in terms of the statistics of the metals that we found. If you're just joining us again, we do have on the panel with us Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisiu-Kote. She's the Administrator, Minerals Development Fund, MDF. We also do have a video call with us, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, who is a military doctor, founding member of the opposition NPP, as well as former ambassador to Serbia and Montenegro. We do have as well Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah, acting director, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. And of course, on my immediate left, Dr. Dennis Bote, who is a private medical practitioner. And we're going to go into details of what we just watched. And I'm coming to you first of all, Professor Benedicta Ofosu-Mensah, because you led the team that investigated the samples that we brought just some weeks ago. Is there anything else we need to know beyond what was captured in that video we just played?
Well, good evening to our cherished viewers and good evening to my co-panelists. Good to have all of you here. Well, I would say that not really much is there for us to know aside what was presented. I think the discussion is no more about whether there are heavy metals in our food or not. That fact has been established. And that is why we are calling this issue of illegal mining as environmental terrorism. And we are becoming a poison nation. A nation that if we do not take drastic measure, it will come to a point that the working force will be sick people. And that will mean that we'll spend millions of dollars trying to keep ourselves alive because we will spend most of our times in hospitals and in pharmacy or sick bed instead of using our productive time in engaging activities that will bring development to our nation. So the issue is not whether they are heavy metals, but the reality is that most of the food, if not all food that we eat, are virtually poisoned food. So when you have food on your table, you are eating fufu, you are eating yam, you are eating even contemporary, that takes fewer months or weeks to grow. Results from the laboratory shows that these foodstuffs contain metals or levels of metal that are above the WHO limit. And as we saw in the video, we tried to probe further to see because, yes, naturally the soil contains some amount of metals or heavy metals, but then it's above certain threshold that becomes risk to humans. So
we understand that should be one,
yes,
a maximum
it should be
of one.
less than one.
Less than one, actually.
One and less than one. And so we try to find out if the levels that we've found are within threshold that are acceptable. And we realize that they are far more than the acceptable limit. And some are giving us 100%, which means that if you are supposed to take in, let's say, 50 milligram, and you are within a safe region, you are now having 100 milligram, which is twice the amount which is the acceptable unit. So it is an established fact that all our food crops, in fact, I will not say all, but most of our food crops have higher levels of heavy metals. And hospital data or report shows that the number of kidney failure, the number of liver failure are going up on daily basis.
And
that is why, as a country, we all need to be worried. Because I keep on saying that, look, you may think that you are in Accra. You are very far from a mining site. But bear in mind, Accra, we do not have peri-urban area. In fact, most of our peri-urban agriculture fields have been taken up by estate developers. So most of the food that we eat here in Accra are coming from the hinterland. And it is these hinterlands that we are having illegal mining. And so we should all be worried. If you are here in Accra, you are equally eating poisonous food just as anybody that lives in a mining area. And that is why it should be of a concern to everyone. And as citizens, we should not sit to allow a few individuals, because of their parochial interest, put all of us at risk.
And I want to get the preliminary thought as well of Dr. Dennis Botte. You're a private legal practitioner. I'm wondering what was going through your mind as you watched the details given to us in that feature, and of course the additional information from Professor Fosu Mensah.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, and good evening to our viewers and co-panelists. Indeed, it's heartbreaking, it's heart-rendering to see what is going on in terms of quantum of these heavy metals that our food is laced with. Hitherto, we have been showing things about the turbidity of the water in our river body, so the water is like tea or it's like Milo. But beyond that, it's also in the food that we are eating. And you see, in nutrition, there's something we call vitamins. So we say, with vitamins, you need them in very little amount. It's the same thing with what we call trace elements or trace metals. There are elements that we also need them in very small quantities. So something like, the body needs a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of zinc, even iron that is supposed to help our blood in terms of increase in our blood level or our hemoglobin. Is even needed in a certain amount. Beyond a certain amount, iron becomes poisonous. So you have iron toxicity, something we call hemochromatosis or hemosiderosis. All these things can come up. Now, looking at the levels of or quantity in terms of how much of these things are in our foods, it becomes alarming that in the hospitals these days, recently we were discussing as doctors, we are seeing too many young people coming with strokes. Under 40s, they are coming with strokes. This morning, I seen a young 36. It was like, I don't know why my blood pressure is 171. Today, I've seen a young person with kidney failure. Now, we are sitting in Accra. We think that we are on the periphery, but it is something that is global. It's nationwide. The water is coming through our taps. Today, we are talking about food, but water is coming through our taps. And we say that when you have taken your bath with soap, and you still clean yourself, you still see some dirt on the towel. So no matter how much our sewage system tries to eliminate all these from the water, the quantum of these toxic substances that come into the arena for it to be filtered means that some will still leak or seep into the water we drink. This poses a danger to all of us. No one is safe. Absolutely no one. And in our foods, you don't see what is in terms of the chemistry of the food, but they are so much laced with these things, and it's heartbreaking for us as a nation.
It's heartbreaking. I'll be going to Dr. Hannah Bisu very shortly, as well as Dr. Nyaho Tamoklo, who is also a doctor as well. But let me ask you this quick question. We heard the person who gave me the data earlier saying that this is also causing brain damage as well as developmental issues in children. Tell us how bad this is. You're a medical doctor.
Yeah. So when you have these chemicals or these heavy metals in your food, it goes through the normal thing. You eat, it gets digested, it gets absorbed, it enters your blood. Your blood travels everywhere, including your brain. So the blood feeds the brain. Now, we have something we call blood-brain barrier. So at the blood-brain barrier, these metals, be it mercury, be it arsenic, be it lead, some of them can seep through into the brain substance. And therefore, they cause damage to the brain substance itself. So with time, it keeps accumulating in the brain substance. And it will bring to the fore, a neurological problem. So people have cognitive issues. Memory will be a problem. And the brain actually controls everything you're doing.
So perhaps we should even be expecting people having Alzheimer's.
Of course. So one of the things that, or eventualities, is that we, in the next, if we are not careful, in the next 30, 50 years, we'll have younger people coming down with dementia, memory loss at younger ages than what we are having now. Yeah, and being the brain controlling every part of our body. So if the brain is so much congested with higher than normal levels of these metals, people end up having, you know, when people get so worried about, I have tremors, I have tingling sensation, I say, it's going to be worse because the brain that controls all these functions is now polluted with these substances. And beyond that, these chemicals, they seep everywhere. It can go into your lungs, into your heart, and there are we say something is mutagenic or carcinogenic. So if I say mutagenic, it can cause mutations or changes even in our genetic makeup that future generations that will be born are likely to have a lot of genetic problems. And carcinogenic means that it can cause cancer. They can cause changes that will lead to more cases of cancer. So the earlier we did something about it, the better. Otherwise, we should brace ourselves for a long haul of a fight against all kinds of disease conditions that we are likely to be plagued with into the future.
We are likely to be played with into the future. I'll be coming to you very shortly, Dr. Togbi, Dr. Nyahunya Otamaklo. But like I said, I do have in the studio as well with us Dr. Hanabisu Koto. You are a policy person. And I know that you personally, with your task force, you've gone to some of these hinter places to try and even arrest, especially foreign nationals. Having seen the data and the kind of commentary you've heard right now, what's going through your mind?
I'm trying to find the right words to describe what is out there. You know, you were in Atiwa West. And to be precise, I started off this community engagement from Akrofufu, where a baby, I'll call him baby because 7 years old, fell in a pit and died. Because that pit was dug behind a house. So now they've actually got into the communities. Then I continue with the team to Abomusu. At Abomusu, we have a STEM school. And they've taken over the whole park of the school. And the other areas that have been reserved for future development be taken over. And they've gotten actually to the building as well. So some of the students don't go to school anymore. They are scared. And we've continued. What we do in Mineral Development Fund is to redress the negative impact amongst all the others that we have to do, is to redress the negative impact that mining has on the communities and the people where we mine. When you go to these communities, it's worse than what we see. It's heartbreaking. As a woman, as a mother, as a leader, you ask yourself so many questions. It's dangerous, apart from what we see in the metals. You know, I used to be the deputy minister in charge of water once upon a time.
And agriculture, I believe.
Yeah, agriculture was after, I was in water resources for 4 years. And from 2013 to 2017, I was in charge of livestock. And I remember at that time, we had a lot of challenges, because Ghana Water cannot treat, I don't know whether or not they have it. But
well, recently they told us that they couldn't.
No, then it's the same. Yeah. Is the same. So the intake at Chebi had to be stopped because of the heavy metals. Then we had issues in Western region. Bosumase, where the depth where we had the intake pump was 24 meters. But because of the mining in the Pra River, it had silted up to 4 meters. So I actually rushed to these areas, and anywhere I went to, I took samples of water. And I remember sending the sample in Chebi to the United States. And they did a test, and obviously, mercury was like no man's business, the levels. It was alarming. And there wasn't much that we could do. I think at the time, President Mahama actually, he had taken over then, and a small town water system was put in place. Then we had an issue of mercury presence in underground water. That's from a borehole in Kumasi.
Oh, we're actually going to go into that in the course of the conversation.
When this is something that some of us, we know that they exist. And I keep asking myself, do we know why a country like Ghana, where we are supposedly to be consuming organic food, where we have so much high prevalence of kidney problems, liver problems, now it doesn't even have age limit. When you go to the communities and you see...
And if you could be wrapping up your preliminary thoughts so I can go to Dr. Nyaho.
Okay, so when you go to the communities and you see our water bodies being mined and whatever they pick is being washed with mercury into the very river, and you live in Obuasi, and the downstream of the river that feeds you in Obuasi, that the upstream is in one of these communities, you're as good as dead. I think that is where I'll end it.
That's where you will end it. I'm coming to you, Togbe Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. I mean, you're a military doctor, you're a doctor, a medical doctor as well, and a founding member of the opposition NPP. Where did we get it wrong, aside from the seeming lack of political will to deal with this? And we've been talking about this for years.
Good evening to other panelists there, and particular to Dr. Mrs. Kote. I haven't seen her for a while. And I would like to take the opportunity to say congratulations, since we had a new appointment. I haven't seen her. Now, I will be blunt, very blunt. What we are discussing now didn't start today. It started about 25 to 30 years ago. The records are there. 25 to 30 years ago. And indeed, where we've got to, if governments don't work on it, then what will happen is no one can get. A clear explanation has been made by the researcher. Very clear explanations have been made by the medical doctor there. So I don't have to go over them. Now, we started destroying our water bodies and the forest years ago, as I said. Believe it or not, as we stand now, governments have come and gone. Not a single government has made the effort to stamp this out. And what surprises me is that they campaign on this, they come to power, and they don't do anything about it.
Including the current government?
I say any government, including the present government. Including the present government. Because the fair solution any government should have taken is to stop what is going on. It's just like having a fire in a house. The first thing you do is to put the fire out.
So we've heard, for instance, the vice president ahead of the elections, we heard her say that the government, if Ghanaians voted for the NDC, would be interested in responsible mining and ensuring that people mined properly. And there seems to be the idea that that's the tangents the government wants to go on. You don't think that that's good enough in terms of dealing with this menace?
No, let's be frank with ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing nothing like responsible mining. What is responsible mining? The people really destroying this country are the kingpins, and they know them. Why they can't go after them is a big problem. The ordinary person in the village cannot afford an excavator. You know the price of one excavator? Those who bring in the excavators are those they should hold responsible. And this is the work of national security. For years, 8 years plus, we have national security who were just chasing citizens. This is their work. There are campaigns behind. The moment you get hold of them, this nonsense will stop. And I have said time and again, the first thing that should be done now is to declare state of emergency. You can't do anything without that. In areas that have been affected or in areas where this destructive operation is going on, you declare state of emergency, get the soldiers involved. That's why the soldiers are there. Put 2 battalions there. 2 battalions will stop this. I've said about it a year and a half ago, and I'm repeating it. That is their way. Put 2 battalions, infantry battalion there, and let them flush the whole area.
Doc, I'm happy that you're a military man yourself. You trained as a soldier, and the concern is that soldiers are trained to kill. So when you send them to the bush, they'll kill people. Is that what you want?
Listen, those in the villages or those kingpins who have been making their money, the innocent people they have been killing. What do you think about that? The work of a soldier is to act on orders. If it's killing that will solve that problem, they will kill. All you tell them is that flush out anything you see in the forest. As I speak with you now, we have about 45, if I'm not mistaken, about 45 forest reserves that have been destroyed. Maybe some of them will be giving us a different, what do you call it, a number. But what I had from the Forestry Commission, 45 forests have been destroyed. They come and tell us that they have been able to rescue one, 2, 3. No, it's not true. Now, out of these 45 or 44, I'll say, 4 are just green forests. 17 have turned yellow. 19 orange. And this is a data from the Forestry Commission. If you go there, they'll give it to you. So I am telling you today that it appears the political class cannot take a decision because they are being responsible for this country. If the political class can, please let me finish. If the political class cannot take decision, the people will take decision themselves. Because people are dying. There are people that look at what the researcher just said. We are in Accra here, but we are equally guilty. We are equally, what do you call it, going to suffer just like the person in the village. Why should we sit down? What are we waiting for? A state of emergency is a state of emergency. You declare a state of emergency to state or control, to save or control a situation that will be worse. What we're getting to now, we shall get to a place where nobody can handle the whole thing now. And indeed, I have heard also that the Volta River itself is being polluted from the north. What the hell is that? Can't we take a decision? Governments come and governments go, and the same problem. A problem that can be solved by the military within a short period.
And when you say that if the political class cannot take a decision, the people themselves would, what does that mean? What did you mean by that?
Look, if you have the people suffering, I've said this time and again, what brings troubles in countries? When the people are suffering, especially, at least, if we have not seen something before, we've read it happening in other countries. And they get fed up. They do what they want to do, and nobody can control them.
Civil unrest, you mean?
when the people get fed up with the system, they do what they want to do and nobody can control them.
And I'm glad...
We are suffering. People are suffering. We have, even hospitals are so understaffed. Hospitals don't have equipment. I mean, the country is in a pathetic state. And simple decisions cannot be taken by about 4 different governments that are passed. What is happening?
I want to come to Dr. Hannah Bisu, because you asked the question about why the government doesn't seem to want to get, quote unquote, the big fishes, but always going for those who are on site. And Doc, I'm coming directly to you on that, because earlier I mentioned that you've been going to these hinterlands yourself. You had the concern of Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. And it's a concern expressed by a number of other people that go get the big fishes. Those on site are not really the ones who are sponsoring themselves.
That is also not generally the case. Okay. When you say those on site, so when I meet Chinese on site, they are not sponsoring themselves.
But somebody put them there.
Exactly. They're together with somebody. And the actions that Mineral Development Fund that represent the communities, the actions that we've taken, these actions that began yielding results. When you go to Etiwa West, we arrested those on site, and the one behind has appeared. Because we take you, once you touch the communities. So I was telling people, you know, when you start doing these things and you're getting results, then you have some group of persons that somehow it affects, maybe directly or indirectly, I don't know. And they will try and come up with all sort of funny excuses. Oh, it's not your mandate. Oh, it's not this.
I was actually going to go there.
No, don't even go there. As a Ghanaian, it's my mandate. That is number one.
To be going to the forest? When you have the police, the military, and other people who are supposed to be
so now
let
me also tell you, why do you arrest a thief when they come to your house? Why don't you sit down and, as said, it's not your duty to arrest a thief because you're not a police officer? Are you a police officer? No. So will you watch a thief to rob you or rob your neighbor because you are not a police officer?
So you've taken it upon yourself.
And so, no, and also, let me also clarify for you. Probably you've not seen the videos. I don't go alone. I've seen thieves. I've seen murderers. I've seen terrorists. They are environmental terrorists. They're terrorizing the communities that I'm supposed to serve. They terrorize these communities that I'm required, even by NDPC. They said the Mineral Development Fund, you should support in the prevention of mining environmental degradation and pollution and promote mining community socioeconomic environment.
And the way to do it is to go to the forest.
I'm talking about community, so I don't know why you're mentioning forest here. When you went to Etiwa, did you go to a forest? No, you went to a community. From the time I started, I've not mentioned forest. You are the one mentioning forest. So I don't want you to push the narrative.
Yes, but the point is going to places where there are illegal mining.
Listen. You see, when you say going to the forest, you are changing the narrative that I'm putting across. And I wish that you allow me to put this narrative across because it's very important for the nation. Okay? When you come to the act, because you're also going to ask me the same question, and anybody who has asked me that question, seriously, if it's for the consumption of your viewers, it's pardonable. But if it's for your own consumption, it's not pardonable. You know, when you say, is it your mandate? And I'm like, okay, is it my mandate to drink contaminated water? Is it the mandate of that innocent pregnant woman to have malformed baby because somebody contaminated the water? Is it the mandate of that child at Old Atitim who knows nothing but a gun because people come and terrorize them with guns? Is it the mandate of that 7-year-old boy who fell in the pit, dark in the community and died? Is it the mandate of that mother to have lost her son? Now, Section 5 of application of the fund, A, says we are supposed to redress the harmful effects of mining on affected communities and persons, and promote local economic, those ones are put aside. You see, before we came to office, MDF had been in existence in 2016, March. I'm the second administrator. A lot of people didn't know about MDF. Now we take the books of MDF, dust them off, and decide to go by the mandate, and those that it pinches, they are crying. You went to the field, you went to a community, you saw what they've done in those communities. Have they reported to you how many people have fell in the pit and died? I've been to places where 2 people died. All that it time somebody fell in the pit and died, and they were met with guns when the community went there to try and rescue at least a dead body. And so when we go to the field, like what we just, the case that we just had, let me read those behind.
If you say the case you just had where your task force was confronted, or
now, in
the
the
one
first
after?
place, let me also say this. I don't have a task force. I'm the administrator of Mineral Development Fund. Now, when I'm moving into a community, by the request of the community, and I have letters, I received a letter from one of the big chiefs in this country yesterday, requesting that they don't trust any entity. They want Mineral Development Fund to come in and help them with all these elements from their communities. So when we get the invitation, we move in, okay? So when we are moving in, we go with the police, uniform and non-uniformed, and sometimes with the military. There are places where we're held hostage, but we were able to free ourselves. And there are places, like recent Friday, there was an ambush, but by the grace of God, we were able to discover them. You know, just that case, we arrested Chinese. We got about 8 excavators the same day, and it continued the next day. 2 days ago, those who sent the Chinese, they've written a letter to us. They came, written a letter, assumed responsibility, promised that they are going to pay for the restoration of the land that they have destroyed, the restoration of the water body, and the restoration of the community's life. And they have admitted the wrongdoing. Not just them, all those that we've arrested. And they've been reminded, those that we have in hand, the Chinese, Ghanaians, you'll be reminded, we are pushing for a polluter-based principle. You pollute, you pay. The rest of it, the law that has to deal with you deals with you.
So aside from the payment, just so you're able to land, and then I'm able to go to the other panel members as well. Aside from the payments, those who have come forward as being behind those, what else is going to happen to them?
The law will take its course.
What does that mean?
It means that because...
I mean, we have our laws that say that if somebody is caught between 10 to 20-something years, the person should be able to face the law.
That's why the courts have these cases with them. And I want you to know that at least for every case that MDF is handling, we are getting results because those behind have come up and they've assumed responsibility. And as we speak, there are even sites per the intel that we have on the ground. People are moving in with dozers to start the reclamation and tree planting and other stuff, because once you know you've crossed the community, you've crossed Mineral Development Fund. We've had calls now today, I had calls from people who are into Galamsey, and they say the action that MDF we've taken, that have actually made them feel guilty for their actions. And somebody is saying, Madam, I have stopped and I want to help. And we'll show you where if it's in the forest, I will direct them, protect them by giving the information to those who are to go to the forest. But if it's in the communities, we have to redress. But how do I redress a harmful effect of mining on them? When I meet people digging in schools, around the schools, in the communities, at backyards, taking over their farms, mining in the water bodies, contaminating it, then all that I have to do is throw my hands in despair and start crying. And what will that be? You know, they live in, I just wish that we could go and see what the people tell me is dangerous, and I tell you that those who live there, they live in danger every microsecond of their lives that they live in those
And I want to ask you this question very briefly. I'll go to Dr. Togbe, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, and then we'll look at the way forward as regards mitigations. But again, you just dismissed the reports that you have a task force. Just last week, we had the small-scale miners coming out to say that, yes, they like the fact that the government seems to want to do something about the fight against illegal mining, yet they feel that the efforts are not coordinated. And so you just, like I said, dismissed a bit about the task force, but you also do have the Forestry Commission doing its bits, the military doing its bit. Just yesterday, we heard the police administration at a press conference also telling us what they are also doing. Do you have an idea as a government, what kind of are we coordinating all these efforts so that not every, and then again yesterday we had Gold Board also launching a task force. How are we coordinating these efforts so there's one focus to achieve the same objective?
I think that for military, the police, Gold Board, agencies and others, whatever they put in place, obviously there's a coordination, okay? The country is huge, and you heard Dr. Togbe, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo saying that the Volta today, I was just thinking, probably the Volta is also having its fair share.
And he confirmed it for you.
And he just said it, okay? And so when you coordinate, when Mineral Development Fund, if we have a distress call for from a community and we are visited, and we go to the police, and we go to the military, and we seek for assistance for them to go with us, it's as coordinated as, because they also have their chain of command, you understand? So they come in that force, and when we finish, everything that is taken, if it's excavated, everything, it goes to the police. We don't deal with those things. Our one is to pursue, to make sure that whoever is arrested is not left off the hook per phone call or monies or any other thing, and it's yielding results.
And Togbe, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, I'll be coming to you very shortly, but the other two panelists in the studio haven't spoken, and so I want to come to them, and I'm looking at the way forward, really. Doc, what can be done? Is there any way to turn this around? Reclaiming our lands, purifying our food and our water?
Of course. Because we call this existential threat, call it whatever, environmental terrorism. The only way to do it is to reverse what is going on, by whichever means. I know countries where things that like this started, and some of these methods were being used, and people were like, still going on. So it became a shoot to kill.
Kind of the approach Togbe is telling us
and
about.
And once that thing was adopted, it stopped. And you see, we are all being killed gradually, because we are all drinking from the same taps. You fetch water from your tap, and you just the quality or the way it looks to tell you that it is polluted. The fish in the water, they are imbibing and assimilating all these metals into themselves. Even the bird overhead that eats from this fish in our river bodies, they are all they are vanishing. You don't see the vultures and all these anymore. Why? They are assimilating all these heavy metals and they are dying off. Wherever you took the samples from, I'm sure they are quite a distance from the river bodies.
Some of them
and
were
yet,
a bit far.
These metals have seeped all the way, percolated all the way into the farms. So you can imagine what is going on in the river bodies and the fish that we consume. And fish is also food. So it's all there. We have no choice than to be frontal with this and fight it as a war. We just assume that these are terrorists who have invaded. And I keep saying, if terrorists invaded our country, how would we handle them?
How would we handle them? So that's there are others who also believe that perhaps there are other chemicals that they could use instead of these ones. Are there alternatives?
Yes,
Do you know about them?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, so usually the mercury that is being used is very poisonous. And sometimes lead and all these things do enter into our water bodies. Definitely, there are alternatives that can be used. They may be more expensive if they are, but at least it's more life-saving.
Doc, do you know about them in terms of the price? Are they more expensive than the poisonous ones they are
Okay, what
using?
I can say when it comes to our side, MDF, our research
and
team,
I'll come back to you to finish
our
I just want to get that.
our research team with a private entity here in Ghana. We've done extensive research and we've come up with the alternative, which has gone through all the trials, and it's like 0.000 toxicity, and that can replace the mercury and the cyanide, whatever.
And is it more expensive than what is being used now?
No,
okay.
It's not. And very soon it will be, once we are done with all the paperwork, it will be launched out there. We are also in communication with the small-scale miners, and it will be tried. It's the best alternative so far. There may be others, but what we have done through research with our partners here, because we've not launched, I don't want to mention the name.
I will come back to you to conclude on that first. Doc, if you can finish, and I'll go to Prof.
That is very refreshing to note that at least we are looking at alternatives that will keep the population safe. And so beyond that, there must be reclamation of the land. Because plant life is more like our life depends on plant life. Because pollution of carbon dioxide, plants do absorb them. So if we destroy the forest, we end up all these greenhouse effects.
The cyclical
we're going to have
effect.
it again. So we're going to have all these things seeping into the placenta of our mothers, and they're giving birth to more formed babies, and babies are actually born and their brains are destroyed already. So we are going to have more blockheads in school. For saying that out loud. So we need to take the frontal action and deal with it frontally.
And I'm coming to you, Prof. Before I come back to you finally, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamoklo, what is the way forward for us, really, in terms of ensuring that we are reversing this? And I'm not looking at a long term. I'm looking at something we can do now. And if you have any medium-term ideas before we even think of the long term, because we need to start from somewhere.
Thank you. Well, the issue is we need to reclaim our land. Now, when you talk about land reclamation, people just think that, well, let's just cover our pits and then plant trees and other states. I don't think it's so. They are more advanced way of, but simple way of reclaiming our land. We need to do what we call bioremediation. It's not just enough that you have a polluted land and then you put in trees there. Well, the trees grow, before you realize, farmers go back and start farming there. Heavy metals are not metals that, you put in there and within a year or two, they evaporate or disappear. They are there for years. Now, plants are supposed to pick up. If we want to remediate the soil, we want to deliberately remove these heavy metals. And there are several methods of removing these metals. The remediation. The most friendly one is the phytoremediation, which is using plants to remove these heavy metals. Now, if you are using plants to remove the metal, what that means is that the heavy metal is in the tissue of the plant. What that also means is that if the plant remains there and die, the heavy metal is reintroduced into the soil. So it is not just enough to cover pits and plants, but deliberately planting trees or plants that are known to be good accumulators of these heavy metals. Now, we cannot or we should not just leave this plant there. It means that we have to deliberately harvest this plant and destroy them appropriately. That will be the only way by which we can remove these heavy metals. So once the plants are there, when they die, they reintroduce. And then when the plants grow, and we just think that, oh, everything is okay, farmers go to plant, the plants bioaccumulate these things. And when you talk about the food chain.
If you could wrap up in 20 seconds,
yes,
please.
So the food chain, plants are the primary producers. So if contaminant wants to go into the food chain, it starts from plants. Once the plant eats it, animals go to eat the plant, human beings eat animals or eat the plant. It's reintroduced into the system. So it is not enough as a country to say that we are solving the problem by just covering pits and plant trees, but we should be deliberate in harvesting these plants and properly, destroy.
Our time is actually up, but in the meantime, should we ban food coming from all mining areas?
Then where do we get our food from?
Okay, so, Doc, I promised I was going to come back to you in like 20 seconds so we can wrap up because our time is really up.
I quickly want to say this. that at Mineral Development Fund, together with our partners of Ishintel Group, we are going to the plantation of Remy. And there are species of Remy that actually takes absorbs the heavy metals. In the next few weeks, their scientists will be coming down to Ghana, and our research team leaders also go and learn. So to be some of these, the species that will be absorbing will be given, seedlings will be given to some of these communities. And as Prof said, eventually they'll be harvested and pass through certain process that will now free our land. So we are doing all. When we talk about the reclamation, we are looking at reclaiming the land and actually planting trees that will take out the heavy metals. So Mineral Development Fund this time around in our communities want to make sure that at least we do the right thing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hannah Bisu. Doc, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, if you would kindly give us your final word in just 20 seconds and then we'll wrap up. Our time is up.
My final word is straight to the point. Criminals have declared war on this nation. And when a war is declared on a nation, the soldiers in that country, they fight it. Without that, we should forget about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Thank you very much, Dr. Togbi, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, for joining us. Also, Dr. Hannah Bisu as well with the MDF, Professor Benedict Afusu-Mensah, and Dr. Dennis Bote. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight.
And
join
please,
us again.
My surname is Bisu Kote.
Bisu Kote. Thank you very much for joining us.